So this is everything that's great about late summer on a fork. I'm Mark Matsumoto and welcome to my kitchen. Today I want to show you how to use ripe summer tomatoes to make the best fresh tomato sauce. And then we're going to marry it with pasta to make spaghetti al pomodoro. Because it's such a simple pasta, we need good ingredients and good techniques. And I've got you covered on both, so let's start with our ingredients. Pomodoro means tomato in Italian, and I like using a few varieties so we can cover the full spectrum of flavor. I'm using about 450 grams of two types of tomato here. The one on the right is meaty and full of umami, but it's not very tart or sweet, so this is where the one on the left comes in. Tomatoes tend to vary by region, and you can't always tell how they taste by their looks. So you want to find a good balance of sweetness, acidity, and umami with boatloads of tomato flavor. Next, we need basil. No, I mean lots of basil. We're going to be adding it at several stages to layer the flavors, so I'm using 20 grams. You're also going to want a good olive oil that's not too bitter or astringent. This gets emulsified with the tomatoes to give the sauce body, so I like using a rich and fruity one like this. The last major ingredient is the pasta. I'm using 270 grams of thick 11-minute spaghetti today, but any pasta will work. One tip I have is to look for pasta with a matte surface like this because it's gonna release more starch into the boiling water than pasta with a smooth surface. You're also gonna need some salt for the pasta water and sauce, as well as some garlic. I'm using one very large clove. The first thing you want to do is put a wide pot of water on to boil. This is only 6 cups of water, and I'll explain why in a bit. To prep, I'm gonna start by chopping up the garlic. I usually cut slits from the tip towards the root end in one direction, and then I rotate the clove of garlic 90 degrees before cutting slits in the other direction. Then you can turn the garlic on the other axis and mince it up. This doesn't have to be perfect, but just make sure you don't have any large chunks of garlic by going back over it with your knife like this. Next, I'm gonna prep the basil by removing the stems. Then I'm gonna roughly stack up the leaves. You can do this more neatly if you want, but the whole point of this easy pomodoro sauce is that it comes together in a few minutes, so I'm not gonna fuss too much over it. Now I'm gonna roughly chop these up. Oh, these smell so good. To prep the bigger tomatoes, I'm going to remove the core first. This will ensure you don't end up with any hard, woody bits in your pomodoro sauce. This particular cultivar of tomato is super sweet with a nice acidity, but the skins can be a little tough, so I'm going to dice these up pretty small so we can break up the skins. Okay, this is looking good, so I'm gonna set these aside with all of their juices. Now let's prep our other tomatoes. These ones are super meaty with small seeds and thin skin, so I'm not too worried about the size, and I'm just gonna cut them up into bite-sized pieces to help them dissolve in the sauce. That's it for the prep, and our water is boiling, so let's do this. I'm gonna start by adding a teaspoon of salt to 6 cups of water. Then I'm gonna add the spaghetti. Ideally, you want to use a pot that's wide enough to fit the pasta lengthwise, but this is the largest one that I have, so I'm just gonna help it into the water with tongs. Once you have the pasta submerged, set a timer for 1 minute less than the package directions. Be sure to check on the pasta periodically, giving it a stir so that it doesn't stick together and it cooks through evenly. Now, let's get started on the sauce. I'm gonna drizzle in a generous tablespoon or two of olive oil to a large frying pan over medium-high heat. Then I'm gonna add the garlic and half of the basil. saute these until they're super fragrant and the basil is vibrant green. This step extracts the flavor from both ingredients, infusing it into the olive oil. Then I'm gonna add the tomatoes and their juices to the pan. You also want to add a half teaspoon of salt. Stir these together and turn up the heat to get the tomatoes to release their juices. Keep stirring and tossing the pomodoro sauce until the pectin in the tomatoes starts to break down and the mixture goes from chunky to saucy. This will take about 3 minutes. Now I'm gonna turn down the heat and let this continue to simmer and reduce until our spaghetti is done. While we wait for the pasta to finish boiling, I want to take a moment to thank all of you for supporting my channel by watching and liking my videos. If you've learned something new from this recipe and you want to help me out, head over to marksrecipes.com where you can subscribe to my secret stash of original recipes. I've got a bunch of other pasta recipes over there like my foolproof cacio e pepe or my kimchi meat sauce, and your membership helps to support this channel. Alright, let's get ready for the wedding. Okay, our tomato sauce is reduced to the point that it's starting to caramelize, and it's time to marry it with our pasta. The catalyst that's gonna make this happen is the starchy boiling liquid in the other pot. I'm gonna start by adding a few ladles of boiling liquid to the sauce. And do you see how thick this has gotten? That's because we've boiled the pasta in as little water as possible, and the starch content is gonna help stabilize our emulsion of tomatoes and olive oil so it doesn't break apart and get greasy. Okay, the timer's up, so let's transfer the spaghetti into our sugo de pomodoro so they can get married. Now I'm just gonna toss and stir these together until the pasta is cooked through. It's still releasing starch into the sauce, so if it starts to get sticky, just add more pasta water. The idea is to finish cooking the pasta like risotto, stirring constantly to enrich the sauce while the flavors of the tomatoes permeate each strand of spaghetti. You could add some more olive oil here to make this more rich and creamy, but I added a bit more than planned at the beginning, and I'm pretty happy with how the sauce is looking, so I'm gonna add one final scoop of pasta water, and maybe I'll add another. Toss that together. And then I'm gonna sprinkle this with most of the remaining basil. Toss this together. And our pasta pomodoro is done. Serving pasta is a race against time, so I'm not gonna do anything fancy here. Just get the pasta into a serving bowl, and then top it off with the remaining sauce. I've saved a bit of the basil to sprinkle on top as a garnish. And our spaghetti al pomodoro is ready to eat. Few things smell better than tomatoes, garlic, and basil, so let's try this out. All right, I'm gonna go in with a big fork load here. I don't know if you can hear that, but that squishy sound, that's how you know you've got enough pasta water in there. All right, oh, that's a big mouthful. Oh man, this pasta is everything that's good about late summer. The tomatoes are sweet, tangy, and loaded with umami. You've got that pungent garlic and that fresh basil. And that pasta water has married together that rich, creamy olive oil with the sweet, fruity tomatoes. And it's created this beautiful sauce that coats every strand of that al dente spaghetti. The spaghetti al pomodoro encapsulates everything that's good about summer, so I hope you'll give it a try. Well, I've got some gardening work to do, but check out this playlist for more summer recipes. And I'll catch you in the next one.